I'm going to come on to the subject of Germany. Now, this report is from last year, March, in fact, but the headline was pretty specific. Germany is building what is expected to become Europe's largest military. And I've highlighted that it contains quotes from a gentleman called Scholz and Jana Puglierin, who has some interesting things to say. So if we just have a look at a bit of this, I've only taken two. So this is commenting on a dialogue in the Reichstag, and it says Germany's parliament erupted into a rare standing ovation, a roar that filled the main chamber of the Reichstag, a building whose destruction and rebirth were at the centre of the horrors of the last World War, and was now again witness to what Germans had labelled a Zeitenwende, a historical turning point. And I'll add this one as well, because the comment is that defence expert Jana Puglierin watched on in disbelief and stated, it was mind-boggling for me to see this because for many of the things that he had basically decided overnight, I had fought for years and I was sure to never see them materialise. So this was a report about effectively the remilitarisation of Germany. And even though the Germans have got problems producing munitions at the moment because they can't keep up with demands from Ukraine, certainly won't on their own, they are looking to dramatically increase weapon output. And there's been a statement that the German armed forces are to be increased. But if you follow this through, it brings you via this particular person, and I'll get Alex to comment on this in just a moment, but this is the European Council on Foreign Relations. Here's the title with a bit of NLP, Reshape Global Europe, Facts That Matter. And just have a look at this comment here. The EU can overcome the new challenges it faces and can, quote, shape the global order. To achieve this, Europeans will need to improve their joint capacity to act. Alex, very quickly, because the clock's running away from us, it doesn't look good. We've got these tremendous riots and breakdown in France, and next door we've got a Germany where it seems that there's a groundswell to reinvigorate the military at the same time as they are getting closer and closer to direct involvement in the war in Ukraine.
This is the EU sovereign brigades, the souverainists' response to global Britain. They're now talking about global Europe and European sovereignty. And this is the same think tank, the European ECFR, whose British member, Nick Whitney, as one of the very few people who covered 5 years ago, said that British and French nuclear weapons were really a joint asset with the Germans and anyone else in the EU club. So no, that's the response. It is breaking down the nation state in order to have a homeland to be proud of, particularly in the German case, and that homeland will be called Europe. But the talk of the town in Brussels is not, we're going to be the shapers of the world. The worry now around the EU and NATO, and it's quite openly being chatted about, is are we even the dominant geopolitical force on the continent of Europe?
Yeah. Well, the linkage on my research on that little section took me through to this, the Power Atlas. It was talking about 7 battlegrounds of a networked world. We haven't got time to do the detail of it, but just to give this, which leapt off the page, Mark Leonard is commenting in this particular section of this report. Power is now defined by control over flows of people. That's the migration, the created migration problem, goods, money and data, and via the connections they establish. Only states that see the new map of geopolitical power clearly will be able to, quote, control the modern world, unquote. So it's pretty easy the moment we're delving into the politics of Europe to see the fact that the agenda is all about control, not just of Europe, but of larger regions of the world. Okay, well, I did say we would mention him. This report comes from Russia Today, I believe, but it's reporting that George Soros is going to chop at least 40% of his Open Society staff. I found this very interesting because one would have thought he needed all those staff at the moment to help control the troubles that are hitting so many countries, but apparently not. But we know he's still there active. So what this reduction is about, we'll have to wait and see. And I also wanted to pop up on screen this. Now, this interview was done some time ago. I think it was about 5 years ago. But as I rewatched part of it a couple of evenings ago, I was just struck by the expression on this young lady's face, the arrogance and the hatred because she disagreed with what the Hungarian foreign minister was saying. And I decided to screenshot it because I think this one image tells us so much about the BBC itself and what happens if you dare to challenge their line on migration and multiculturalism. Alex, we're just about out of time, but you've got a couple of images, I think, to take us out of the news with.
Yes, the good old "and finally." So the first of them is two cartoons or headlines side by side. It's Freudian slip to call them cartoons. Euronews, in its green rubric, is reporting that the science now tells us that dogs could become more hostile to humans as the planet heats up. On hot and polluted days, dog attacks could become more common. One of my Telegram channel subscribers has already replied to me that in many countries, people feeling afraid of a dog is now logged as a dog attack. So make that of that what you will. And the right-hand headline here is obviously satire, but rather close to the bone. Above an image of documents of doctors in white coats or lab technicians in white coats, we read the headline: "Scientists who didn't predict a single thing accurately for the last 2 years, confident they know what the weather is going to be like in 100 years." And a bona fide cartoon to take us out. This is a cartoon of NATO headquarters in Brussels. A general is answering the phone, and blaring down the phone, a voice says, "Send money and guns." And the general behind his shoulder says, "Is this Zelensky again?" And the gentleman taking the phone call says, "No, Macron."
It's good, isn't it, that we can still have some humour reflecting on the terrible events in the world. And that cartoon, I think, says so much. Well, we're at the end of the news. We need to finish there, although there's a lot more to discuss. We want to say, as always, thank you very much to the viewers. Wherever you've come from in UK or worldwide, it's wonderful to know that you're all there, and it's wonderful to have all the support that you are giving to UK Column. We'll end there. Thank you for joining us. We have got an extra, UK Column Extra today, and for those who are signed up members with UK Column, we will see you in a few minutes. Goodbye.